guess what? It's episode 391 of Good Luck High Five.
That's right. You are listening to a podcast that's for you if you play Magic the Gathering. Whether you are sitting at home jamming some arena or, maybe you're sitting at home playing some Jumpstart with a box that you bought.
I'm one of your hosts, Maria.
I'm another one of your hosts, Meghan.
And on today's show, we're going to talk all about Historic as promised. Don't say we don't keep our promises about what we're going to talk about on our next episodes. Historic all day, baby.
That's right. So the Historic Open, the Arena Open that is Historic, is coming up not this weekend, but the weekend after. But this Friday is a Historic All Access F&M at home. So that means that you can go and you can try out any Historic deck that you want at all, because in that event, you have 4 copies of every card that is legal in Historic. So Friday, go check some of these out. If you're like, that sounds cool, give it a spin. If it doesn't work, chuck it out the door. Oh, Maria's cat is yawning and being very cute.
Yeah, Moxon was just being so cute. He sits here all day with me. What a good boy.
Oh,
loyal. Not only pups can be loyal. But yeah, it's going to be really cool because if you're like, oh, I haven't tried out Historic, I don't know what to play in the Open, or I just want to, dip my toe into this new weird arena format, it's a perfect opportunity to do that and test out some decks, basically like not worrying about, spending your wild cards to build something, because you get to test it out first. And we've got about 1 billion deck lists to talk about with you today.
We will talk about everything from what's been good historically in Historic to what is good maybe with the addition of these new cards from Jumpstart, what had to go away because of the bans, what's maybe still out there fighting that good old ban fight. There's just 1 million options.
Yeah.
And we'll touch on all of them.
It makes me so excited because it's like the start. We're here at the start of a new format. If you're like, oh, I wonder what it was like when Modern began or whatever, that's kind of how it feels like a little bit, even though we've got more of a roadmap than Modern had.
And I know some people were surprised when we mentioned this. This was weeks ago now. But when you rank up on the Historic ladder, you're just ranking up on the classic constructed ladder. Standard and Historic are both the same one. It's just one constructed ladder. So if you're interested in ranking up, but you're like, Standard is not for me right now, one, you are not alone. Basically, everybody is right there with you right now. You can play Historic instead, and I love Historic. I have such a good time playing it.
It's so fun, and honestly, you play so many different kinds of decks. Your opponents come to the table with just silly stuff you've never even heard about, stuff you're like, oh, I need to write down what they're doing because that's really cool. Like I said last week, I've got a list right here of all the decks I played against, and it is long. It's not just Team of Reclamation written in 20 times.
Also,
I'm looking at you, Standard.
Why would you write it 20 times instead of putting tabs? You just every time you're like, yeah, I'm so mad, I'm going to write it down again.
Exactly. I kind of wish that this event coming up this weekend, by the way, it's the Players Tour Finals this weekend, was Historic and not Standard.
I wish this was Historic. It's on Arena. Let's just do it.
Yeah. But that event is coming up this weekend. By the way, we want to let you know because a lot of times people are like, I didn't even know that was happening. So we're telling you the Players Tour Finals is coming up this weekend. It is Standard. And yeah, probably everyone's going to play Team of Reclamation. But there will probably be a few people who don't. And those people might win because this past weekend in the Red Bull Untapped International Qualifier number 3, somebody played mono white aggro and they beat a field of Team of Reclamation. So it can happen.
That's right. Maria is hopeful and everyone else is resigned.
Yeah. That should be on my tombstone. Even though I'm the one who's dead.
Everyone else was.
Oh my God.
Great. Oh man. So we have a Marco Polo. I'm on many Marco Polo threads. Helps keep me sane during this time. And on one of them that is a bunch of current and previous members of Comedy Sports, which you're both members of, one of the former players who now lives in LA, I forget what we were talking about, and she was just like, she was talking about not being self-actualized or like only ever striving for that. And she's like, not all of us get to be self-actualized. Like some of us will just die trying.
Oh, jeez.
And I just loved it a lot. I was like, yeah, you're right. Not all of us get to be self-actualized. Like some of us will die trying.
Well, you know what? At least you were trying.
Exactly. At least you were trying. Anyways.
On that note, before we start the show, a big thank you to everyone who has actualized their love of our show by helping support us on patreon.com/GLHF Magic.
That's right. Wow, great transition there. That
You know
was
what?
really aces.
Send those transition awards to me right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you so much to everyone who is a patron of the show over on patreon.com/GLHF Magic. It does mean just the world to us. This is something that you can achieve.
It's true.
And hopefully by achieving it, you feel great because you can join our wonderful Discord full of wonderful people. And you can help continue to make this show. You continue to help make this show possible.
Yeah, and we want to give you an update on kind of like our situation with our office because I know that's important to a lot of people, especially people who donate for the fund. We are ever closer to having a new space. So hopefully
That's right.
we have very good news for you next episode. That's our hope.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But that's your quick update. But yeah, we are very excited and think we've got something good in the works. So thank you to everybody for that and everyone who becomes a patron. You are the reason the show keeps going, period.
Yes.
And big thank you as well to Card Kingdom, our amazing sponsor. You can check them out on the internet, cardkingdom.com/GLHF. They've got everything you could ever want for Magic, and they're just wonderful people on top of it. We talked about, you can actualize this by going to Patreon and helping support us. And like, it's kind of a joke, but also it's kind of true because I feel like when I buy from companies that I know are really good, I feel so much better about myself. Yeah. And that's just how I feel about Card Kingdom. So if you need anything in Magic, if you want to play Jumpstart with some of your friends, it's been a blast. I played it on Arena, but you can buy it IRL. Head on over and get it from Card Kingdom. Yeah,
I was skeptical. I was like, what is this set even doing? It's so weird. It was weird, right? Conceptually, when you looked at it from the outside, you're like, what's going on here?
It reminded me a lot of Keyforge, actually.
Yeah. And I think that is kind of, obviously they can never say directly, but like they were kind of looking for something that was a product that was just like those games, shuffle up and play.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here's everything you need, shuffle it, hit the battlefield.
Hit the battlefield. Yeah, it's a super fun time. Very easy, like entry level product for anybody playing, but also, experienced player here. I loved playing it. It was very silly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite
was such a good time.
Decks was like Garrick Artifacts. That was bizarre, but I loved it.
Great. Yes.
And, I got my core Spirit Dancer. So watch out, Historic, is what I'm saying.
Maria's coming for those Boggles.
Hey, guess what? It's time to talk Historic. I bet you knew the answer to that, but I said it anyway.
Hey, guess what? We're going to completely not do what we said we were going to do.
That would be the bait and switch. Like last week, we were like, we're talking about Historic. At the top of the show, I'm like, we're talking about Historic. We get to the point to talk about Historic. I'm like, guess what? Haha, got you. Rickrolled.
And then we just play, whatchamacallit?
What?
The Rickroll song.
Oh, the Rickroll song. Never Gonna Give You Up.
Yes. Otherwise known as the Rickroll song.
Meghan, I think you need to be Rickrolled if you can't remember the name of that song.
That's when they're like, it's time.
It's time. It's time to remind you.
It's time.
But yeah, we're going to talk about Historic. We gave you the pitch up front and why we think this format's super cool. And it like legit is. Yeah. It's like pure Magic. This is what I want Magic to be like.
It's great. It's a blast. I'm trying to think of, there was a really good Rickroll not that long ago.
That somebody got you with?
I don't remember what it was. It was like a Twitter one that I got like a lot of people.
Oh, great.
Oh, I don't remember which one it was. It was very good. Anyways.
If you did that one.
Great format.
Thumbs up. No, seriously. Everyone's like, hey, I wish Magic was like X. Or remember when Magic was like Y? And like the answer is, it is currently that in Historic.
Yes, exactly. It is just like a playground of like monsters and combo and aggro and just random stuff.
And you know what? I wonder is if we're like, ooh, I wish this Players Tour could be historic, but do you think that would ruin it? You know what I'm saying?
You know what?
Like as soon as the pros like come on in and solve it with their grubby little pro hands.
Solve it. I mean, maybe so.
Maybe so, but
so maybe it's good. Maybe it's good that it just continues to do its own little, like constructed ladder arena open stuff.
So do you want to kick it off? Like, what is your current fave deck in Historic Heart Hands?
I actually thought that I would like talk really quickly about the stuff that was like I think that is
the top.
Some holdover.
Yeah, let's
Not
do that.
Not necessarily the top, but is like a holdover from the other stuff because I think that those decks are still very good.
Yes.
Like one of the biggest ones I think is obviously Bant Ramp. I was worried about this deck when they made a bunch of bans that like hit other stuff. Like it's not a problem right now, but maybe still it might be one. So these are the ones that use, like classic Arboreal Grazer, Growth Spiral, Uro. And then either you have like Eugene or you have Field of the Dead or you have Golos or you have like some combination of those things, right? You're like making zombies or making a big dragon or, big spirit dragon and all of that sort of stuff. So I think Bant Ramp, still very good. Very fun. Like I love Eugene. Anything that lets me cast Eugene, I'm into.
I can't even be mad at Eugene, honestly. Like, yes.
Exactly. Like, you can't be mad at Eugene. He's just a cool dude.
He sweeps my board, and I'm not even mad at him. I don't know how they printed a card like that, but I'm not mad at him.
But you're not mad at him.
No. And you can even play just like...
He costs 8 mana.
He costs 8. That could be part of it.
Okay, you got there.
Yeah. You did the thing.
You got to 8. You did the thing. So yeah, I think that that's definitely still like out there. If that's like your jam or you really like that Field of the Dead zombie action, like you can still hit those things real hard. Have a great time. And then mono white, mono red, and mono blue aggro, I think are all still totally great options.
Yes.
Mono blue is like the classic one where you can play like Spectral Sailor or like other little, tiny, Siren Storm Tamer and then slap a Curious Obsession on there and just try and kill your opponent before you run out of like ways to prevent them removing your creature or they manage to remove your creature.
Yes. Yeah, classic
it's just
mono
a race
blue.
To be like, do you have counter magic or did they draw enough removal spells?
Yeah.
Yep. And then we all know what mono red does. I'm not going to tell you about it. And then mono white is like the life gain, the Soul Sisters, like life gain, Heliod, put counters on everything.
Yeah. Classic mono white. And of course, Gruul was one of the best decks before the ban, but of course Burning Tree Emissary got banned. I think the deck is still, I'm sure, very strong, even without her. So
and some people were like, there were versions of the deck already not playing Burning Tree Emissary.
Oh, sure. There you go.
And so I think some people are like, wait a second.
Who cares? It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, those, I think you called it. Those are like the top decks, the decks that were holdovers from previously before the bans.
And you know what the thing is that at least right now in Historic, none of these are so overpoweringly good that if you're like, do you know what? I just love that mono white aggro deck, or I love that mono blue aggro deck. Like, go for it. I don't think anyone's going to be mad at you trying to like play one of these very good decks.
No,
or like
I don't
one
think
of these
so.
decks that's more established because the field is just wide enough right now that they're not going to have run into a bunch of mono blue decks, for instance.
The deck that I find the most oppressive is the Field of the Dead deck. But that being said, it is still beatable. And I'm going to tell you how I beat it with a deck that I think might be potentially too good in a moment here.
Yeah. Okay, Maria, hit us with it.
All right. So tell me if I'm completely off the rails here, but
You're always completely off the rails.
Okay, yeah, that is fair. That is fair. I've been playing Amazonian's Craterhoof Tokens Best of One deck, and I swear to you that I have not lost. I don't know if she came up with the idea. I think maybe somebody like Simon Nielsen came up with the idea initially, but this is her version that I'm sharing with you here that she's perfected as of this recording.
Nice.
I'm telling you, this deck, I did not lose except to myself with this deck because I kept a bad hand or whatever.
This deck is so spicy.
Okay, so the deal with this deck, Yes, you play a bunch of tokens, okay? So you've got Legion's Landing, you've got Omen of the Sun, you've got History of Benalia, you've got Raise the Alarm, who cares? You're making little tokens, you've got no creatures in your deck other than 2 copies of Craterhoof Behemoth, okay? We love the Hoof Daddy. We love the Hoof Daddy.
I also want to point out that it plays Forbidden Friendship.
Yep.
There's 4 copies of Forbidden Friendship, 1 in a red. It makes the 1/1 Dino and the 1/1 Human Soldier.
Yeah, it doesn't care. It doesn't care. Literally, it does not matter as long as you have something that is on the board that is able to attack. And how many of those somethings you have also generally doesn't matter. You can usually sometimes just have 2. That's it. That's all you need. 2 tokens. And then you play Transmogrify, which exiles your creature. And then you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card and put it onto the battlefield, which is Craterhoof Behemoth, because that is the only hit in your deck. Or that's 4 mana way to do it. You can do it with Luca, the 5 mana way, which was the same way we did with Agent of Treachery with Luca in the past, okay? And then you win. That is the end of that sentence.
And then you win.
This deck, I was rocketing through Platinum with it. Everybody was just like, what is happening to me when I played against them? I'm concerned that I'm even telling you about it because it's so strong that I felt like I should not be allowed to play it. That's how I felt. I would win on turn 4. I would win on turn 4. And it was basically they could do whatever they wanted. They could ramp, they could whatever. It did not matter. And the fact that you have 8 copies of your combo enabler, which is just like you just need a creature. That's combo piece number 1. Number 2 is you need either Transmogrify or Luca.
Yeah, and you have 8 copies. That's so many.
Yeah. And the fact that you have Legion's Landing, it might be a little silly, but it often helps you get to your 4th mana to cast your Transmogrify or something like that, which is really helpful. And Fire Prophecy is the only removal spell in this deck, which gets pesky things that you don't want to deal with, whatever they are, out of the way. But more importantly, it lets you put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. For instance, once I kept a hand with 2 Craterhoofs in it because I had some Fire Prophecies in hand, so I could just put them on the bottom.
Wow. And it lets you draw a card.
And draw a card, yeah.
And you draw a card. We always love drawing cards. I always love drawing cards.
So I'm here to tell you this. I played this in best of 1. I have no idea what the best of 3 deck looks like, but
yeah, wow,
it is incredible.
This is so spicy, and I love it.
Have you ever played a deck?
I'm absolutely gonna go try this.
Have you ever played one where you play it and you feel guilty? That's how I play it. Feel when I play it. I feel guilty,
but not guilty enough to stop.
No, God, no. I'm getting a mythic with this thing. Are you kidding me?
I love it. I'm so into this. I'm gonna go play it immediately.
You should, because it is broken in half. Best of 3, probably people can bring in like their settle the wreckages or whatever. But best of 1, it's a house. It's a house. So some other brews that we're going to talk about, I'm going to jump into these ones from MTG Goldfish, Saffron Olive, because I was waiting for someone to build a Boggles deck, because now we have Core Spirit Dancer back in the historic format. And of course, I'm going to try it out.
Of course you are.
Obviously.
You can't help it.
I can't help it.
Also, I just want to say that people are already trying to make spirits a thing. You all know, if you have been a listener of this show, you know I have a beef with spirits in Modern, and I'm just going to go ahead and immediately extend that to having a beef with spirits in Historic. I'm not even going to look at this deck list. I don't care. I have a beef with it. I don't like it. I'm over it.
You know what? We'll never really come to the true reason of why Meghan has chosen spirits as the deck to be mad at.
If we're being honest, I'm not entirely sure why, but I feel it deep in my soul.
All right.
Makes me mad. Makes me real mad.
I'll give it to you. You can have your hatred of spirits.
Thank you.
But yeah, spirits is a deck you can play. That's the end of that sentence.
Spirits is a deck you can play if you want to be a real weenie.
No, then you're playing mono white. Am I right?
Okay, fair enough. All right, Maria, tell us about a Boggles list you got your eye on.
Anyway, Boggles, am I right? Okay, so if you haven't lived the life of Core Spirit Dancer, it's an O2 for 2. It gets +2/+2 for each aura attached to it. Whenever you cast an aura spell, you draw a card. So basically does everything you've ever wanted in your whole life. So she's in the deck as a 4 of course. And then you're playing little Elseed of Life's Bounty to give you lifelink, protect your creatures. You're playing Ginger Brute to get in there unblocked. You've got 3 copies of Heliod's Pilgrim to go find your enchantments. 1 copy of Siona, Captain of the Pyleas, which is kind of weird, but it's in here. 4 Karametra's Blessing to protect your enchanted creatures. Of course, you're playing 4 copies of All That Glitters because your enchanting creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. 4 Setessan Training, 4 Warbriar Blessing, 4 Ancestral Mask, which is another historic only card here. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield, which means if you play that, your creature is enormous, especially if your creature is a Core Spirit Dancer. Don't have to do the math. Your creature is huge. And then the historic version of, our favorite Boggly Crown, which is Face of Divinity, which gives +2/+2 and first strike and lifelink. I think this deck is super fun. I don't know how competitive it is. I think it's probably okay. Maybe needs a little bit more tweaking. But I think it can hang as soon as somebody gets their hands on this and kind of perfects the cards, the exact cards and counts of cards and that kind of thing. So I have high hopes for this Boggle deck in Historic. I also am going to link you all to another version of this deck, which is a red-white version, which is somehow even more aggressive. That's playing enchantments like Escape Velocity, which is giving haste, and Tillinolly's Crown, if you remember that card, +3/+0. It has Trample, and playing cards like Valda, Keeper of the Flame, which is really cool, making 3/1 red elementals, if you remember that, friend, and a Dauntless Vanguard.
I remember Valdic.
So this is another version that you can try out. By the way, all these decks are going to be listed in the show notes and under the video if you want to check them out. And if you watch a video version, they're there on your screen. But yeah, this is another version I just want you to keep your eyes on, playing with Core Spirit Dancer. But Megan, there's a build in here that is kind of for you, is Elves.
Yeah. I have always been an Elves fan. And now that we have Craterhoof is like the card. I would not mess around with Elves in a format where I could not play a Craterhoof Behemoth, because you really need that big ol' hoof to come in and give all your elves a lot of extra damage to push through. And so there's Allosaurus Shepherd is one of the jumpstart cards that's a 3 of in here. It's 1 mana for a 1/1 that says it can't be countered and green spells you control can't be countered, which are some very important texts.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And then it also has 4 green. Until end of turn, each elf creature you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other creature types. So in case you can't get that hoof, maybe you have an Allosaurus Shepherd out there, and that's going to be able to get that job done. We also have one of the very important, in my opinion, cards from the Elves deck from Modern, which is Dwynen's Elite, which is just a 1 and a green for a 2/2. But when it enters the battlefield, if you control another elf, you get to make a 1/1. You also have Elvish Visionary to draw you cards, which I love. My only, it doesn't have, we don't have the Convoke spell that I'm forgetting the name of that you have in Modern. But you have so many of the other things, like you have Elvish Archdruid to make so much mana. You have Imperious Perfect. I'm into this. I want to try it.
It's like basically Modern Elves at this point, right?
Yes.
Pretty close.
Exactly. What's the card that I'm thinking of that it doesn't have that is pretty important?
What are you thinking of?
It's big and green. I'll think of it.
It'll come to you.
I'll think of it. You keep going, and I'm gonna think for a second and try and figure out which card, because it's so embarrassing that I can't think of it.
Well, you can think of it. I'm going to talk about another tribal list because I love tribal lists, as you all know. Elves is a great one. Another great one, which I've played against a lot actually, is Goblins. Totally viable In Historic, I think this deck is very good, actually. And it gets help from the card Conspicuous Snoop, which came out with M21, which is a little 2/2, great art goblin, like pressing his nose on the window. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast goblin spells from the top of your library. As long as the top card of your library is a goblin card, Conspicuous Snoop has all activated abilities of that card. So
I have played against that deck.
Yeah, I think it's really strong. They can chain off with these goblins like nobody's business. It's my cat just jumped out on my desk. Yeah, you can just they sometimes feel a little bit unstoppable, especially when they play cards like Siege Gang Commander, which is able to just throw goblins at your face and deal damage to you that way at some point in the game. I think this deck's actually very strong. And really cool to see a Goblins deck kind of be a deck that seems pretty viable in a new format.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you want to live that Gobbo life, check out this Goblins list and get your little gob on. You know what I mean? Yeah, you do. You do.
I guess.
Another tribal list I wanted to mention. This is another best of one list. This came from Alias V, which is vampires, and
Maria, you started vampires by playing this, right? Like this was like your in.
Yes, this is my historic in, was playing this vampires list. And there's a best of 3 version as well, but this one is really cool and I do love it. And of course you're playing all the best vampires that you can play. The list is very similar to the vampire standard list that I loved however long ago that was. Time has no meaning. In this list, of course, you're playing Sorin Imperious Bloodlord. This one you also play the other Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord, which I think is really cool. And you're running cards like Adanto Vanguard.
Court of Calling. Oh my god. I got there.
You got there. You got there.
Court of Calling is just like so important because it allows you, it's like instant speed and you go and search for things and you can convoke so you can like get a very... Anyways, thank you for like bearing with me while I did that. Okay.
I'm glad we got there. That's what I have to say.
Me too. Okay.
Yes, but vampires. So you've got your Sorins, you've got your Vanguards, you've got your Legion Lieutenants to pump your team. You also get a new toy in Vito Thorn of the Dusk Rose from M21, which is a 1/3 for 3. This card is so cool. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And then 3 black creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn.
Sometimes that's just that reach that you need.
Yes, it is. And it's wonderful with Sorin in this deck to be able to do something like that, I think is really, really cool. And there's, various kind of tweaks on this list that I'm showing you here. People will put in sometimes, what's that new M21 vampire? I'm trying to think of the name of it. I could not
remember Court of Calling for 5 minutes, even though I've played it a billion times. So I think this one's going to be out of my grasp.
Got it. Silver Smote Ghoul. This one is kind of cool. So people have been playing around with this because it works so well with Sorin. It's a 3/1 for 3. If you gain 3 or more life this turn, it comes back to from the graveyard to the battlefield tap. So Sorin can eat it, and then it comes back. Oh,
yes.
So rude.
I love it. I love it.
But this deck has been a blast for me in Historic, and so big thumbs up here. You can play it in best of 1. There's best of 3 versions of vampires out there as well. Take your pick. They're all great.
Yeah. So another deck that I have been soundly beaten by is the Tempered Steel Artifacts deck.
Oh, this one is so cool.
So this is an aggro deck that takes lots of little artifact creatures. Like you're playing 4 Ornithopters, for instance. You're playing 4 Gingerbrute. You're playing, obviously, 4 Steel Overseer, which can put counters on everything. But then, very notably, there are 4 copies of Tempered Steel, which is 1 white for an enchantment that says artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. And like all of a sudden, and that's only 3 mana.
Yeah.
And like also you've used Steel Overseer to put counters on things. Like things just get out of hand very quickly. There's Stonecoil Serpent, which like if they need to, if you have Tempered Steel out, like you can play it for basically not like you can play it for 0 and it's still a 2/2.
What?
Or you can put counters on it and it's enormous.
You can play it for 0 and it's a 2/2?
If you have Tempered Steel out.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Like
that's wild.
It really is. So yeah, this deck, I have not tried playing it, but I've played against it, and it is a force to be reckoned with for sure. Those creatures just get so big so quick.
I like the look of this deck a lot. I definitely want to try it. It's totally up my alley. And Tempered Steel, what a cool anthem effect. I think that's really awesome. Yep.
And there are some versions that also play copies of All That Glitters, which gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So like all of your artifacts, you wouldn't think to put this in a deck that's not about Boggles and enchantments, but it does say artifacts, and like all your creatures are artifacts.
Makes sense.
So yeah, like if you're into trying something that's aggro, but like not the normal flavors of aggro, definitely give this a try.
I'm going to tell you about another strange deck that I was beaten by the other day that I just had to give a small round of applause to, and that is the High Alert deck.
Yes. This one has been around for a while, but it is great. I love it.
I mean, it started out, I was like, what is my opponent doing? They're playing an 05 Aegis Turtle. They're playing an 04 Secret Keeper. They're playing a Wall of Runes and a Yoke Dox, etc., etc. And I was like, hold up, are they going to play High Alert on me? And then the next turn, boom, High Alert, and then I was dead. Great. Which, by the way, if you don't know what High Alert does, each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and creatures can attack as though they did not have Defender.
It's great.
I mean, I was like, what is this nonsense? But then I was like, well, hold up.
Oh, and one of my favorite things is that it also plays Tetsuko, which is 1 in a blue for a 1/3, but creatures you control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. And so since they all are technically toughness like 0 or 1, you also can't block them even after they play High Alert. So they can just get in for 20 damage, and there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do. And High Alert's not the only way to get the High Alert effect, because Huatli the Sun's Heart also, by the way, is a High Alert, in case you didn't know. Her static ability on this random planeswalker, each creature you control gains or assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power.
Oh, great.
So once again, 8 copies of your combo piece, essentially, quotey, in this list.
Quotey.
That's what I used to say in high school all the time when I did finger quotes. Quotey. I just remembered something from high school that I have not thought about for years. Wow. Up next, we've got another super fun deck in Dinosaurs.
Roar. Yes. This is the first of a couple of different like new tribal decks that you can try out.
Yeah, I played against this one, and it is, it's for real. So like, don't just be like, haha, cute dinosaurs. Be like, oh no, I'm going to die from a dinosaur eating my entire body, because that's what's going to happen to you versus this Dinos deck.
Tell me about this Dinos deck, Maria.
Well, you know me. I love the Dinos. I play them in when Singleton was a format that like was a thing.
So briefly, but it was there.
I loved it too. But yeah, this is the deck that I played essentially. You're just playing all of the Dinos you could possibly imagine. Plus, you get access to some really good ones, like Rampaging Ferocodon, which was so nice. They banned it twice or whatever. So you can play that card, which you haven't been able to play basically ever. Rotting Regisaur, because who doesn't want a 7/6 for 3? Gulta Primal Hunger, which is, 12/12 Trampler. Sure, like put that in the deck. Regisaur like Alpha. Old Reggie. Here we go.
Yeah.
Ripjaw Raptor.
That card is so good.
Takes damage, draws you cards. Like
also great. I love to draw a card.
Embercleave's in this deck. I don't know what you want. If you want to attack somebody for damage, and you love dinos, this deck is so cool. Jund Dinos, a thumbs up. I give it the Maria stamp of recommendation, which I just invented, which should be the Maria stamp of approval, but it's not. It's the Maria stamp of recommendation.
The Maria stamp of recommendation. Great.
But I do really like this deck. I think it's pretty cool, and it's good too.
Next up we have there's a maybe not of the same caliber
No.
at all as Dinos, but there is a tribal unicorns deck.
Look, somebody was going to try it, and
Yes.
I can't hate on anybody trying to make this fetch happen because I would love to see competitive tribal unicorns. These aren't competitive, but it can win. And
and it's like
cool.
Yeah, it's doing some cool stuff. It's like using Soul Warden because there's a lot of life gain in this to put counters on a bunch of things. And then the legendary unicorn from Jumpstart, Mel the Blessed, which is 2 white for a 4/4. You can pay 3 to exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. And what you're trying to do is just gain a lot of life. It also has when another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay hybrid green-white. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it. If it's a unicorn, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead.
I actually played against this card in Jumpstart and just basically immediately scooped.
I mean, this card seems very good.
It's super
and
good.
so I like that. Yeah, basically you can just make everything gigantic if you get it on the battlefield.
I love it. Unicorns. I think, I really hope Wizards of the Coast has unicorns like on its mind now, putting more unicorns into Magic.
Yes.
But this is a really fun deck for people who are like, hey, you want to play a unicorns deck? And they're like, yes.
Do you want to play something very, very silly and weird?
Yeah, there you go. Unicorns. It can happen in Historic.
It can happen.
The next deck I found for this one, I think, is for you, Megan, which is Breach Combo, because you played this is a little bit different because this is Underworld Breach, but you do love combo decks.
I do love me a combo deck. And so there is like Kethis combo is still like a thing that's, like circling around.
Yep.
Every once in a while you hit it. But this uses Underworld Breach, obviously, which we know, and Thassa's Oracle is how you get your win with this.
Great.
Which I love. You've got Diligent Excavator, obviously, to mill yourself a bunch. Underworld Breach to cast things from your graveyard. Mox Amber to make you a lot of mana. Stone Coil Serpent, Tesher, and Ancestor's Apostle, which brings things back from your graveyard when you cast historic spells. Emery, Lurker of the Lock, Fubblethub the Lost.
Great.
Like, just what a silly deck.
And I love the fact that you can still kind of play that super powerful Kethis combo deck in Historic too.
Yeah. So if you are looking for combo, like, absolutely it exists. That Kethis deck, like, if you don't have a plan against them by like turn 3, like, you're gonna be dead on the next turn.
Yes, I remember when
like,
that
you
was
need to have
in Standard for a hot second. It was a weird week.
it was for a hot second before, thankfully, it like we didn't have to experience for it for too long because it rotated out.
Yes.
We were like, okay. All right, that was good. I'm glad that we discovered that when we did and not earlier.
If we discovered it earlier, it certainly would have been like banned.
Yes, at some point, I think. But yeah, combo. On. Get in there and get it done. I am very excited to see people messing around with Gitrog Monster.
Yes.
I love me the Gitrog Monster. I love seeing people play Gitrog decks. Big old frog, like, let's have a party. 3 black-green for a 6/6 frog horror.
Frog horror, let's go.
Yes. Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster. Unless you sacrifice a land, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card.
I played against this baby the other day, and I was like, LOL, what are they doing? They're just having a fun time. And then Gitrog happened and Crucible of Worlds happened. And then I was dead very quickly.
Oh, and then they're doing like mean stuff like ghost quartering you.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah. It was a super cool deck.
Ghost quarter you, put it back into play with Crucible of Worlds. Just, they have also lots of ways like Oracle of Moldiah, which is now also in Historic, thanks to Jumpstart, which lets you play an additional land on each of your turns, and you also play with the top card of your library revealed, and you can play lands from the top of your library. I love that card. It was super cool.
It was excellent. Dread Presence is in this deck. If you don't remember this card, whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card and lose a life, or it deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life, which is just like nonsense because you keep doing stuff with Gitrog Monster and Crucible of Worlds or whatever and looping. And then I was just like, well, there's literally nothing I can do.
And you have Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which makes all of your lands every basic land type. So like they're all swamps. You have Azusa Lost But Seeking. Like this, I also need to try out this deck. This looks like a lot of fun. This looks up my alley.
Yeah, this was a great time for my opponent, not necessarily for me, but I did write it down to find because I'm glad I was actually able to find it because I think it's really, really neat.
Yeah. It is a cool deck. And like, Gitrog Monster is always one that's out there that I want to see people playing.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And I'm going to say the same thing for this next deck that I just want to briefly mention. We mentioned monocolor decks earlier in the show. And this next one is monocolor, but it's specifically a devotion deck, which is mono black devotion, featuring our friend Gary, the Gray Merchant of Asphodel.
This is another card that I was like, there has got to be a way. And obviously with, especially with Phyrexian Obliterator, which came with the last historic drop, which is black, and its mana cost.
Excellent. Drain them, Gary.
Get them, Gary. Get them.
I love it. There's excellent cards in this list that you might expect. Gifted Etherborn, Timoret, Chosen from Death. You get to play Murderous Rider, Rotting Regisaur again. Phyrexian Obliterator is really why I'm interested. Plus Gary, obviously. Bolas's Citadel. This deck plays 1 copy of that as well. But basically, you're going to kill him with Gary or else like, what are you doing? Right?
But
what are you doing?
Yeah. But
Gary
else, what are you doing?
Gary him out.
Oh, I love Gary.
Me too.
What a guy.
What a little Gary.
Yes. This next deck is like a flavor of kind of some of the black-red discard decks that have been running around. And now they have 4 copies of Tiny Bones Trinket Thief.
Tiny Bones! Their bones are so small!
So small. So these decks have obviously for a while now they play Croxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, and Waste Not, which is an enchantment from back in the day that is 1 and a black. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, add black to your mana pool. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card.
Yeah, and Waste Not was one of the cards that was designed by the community in one of those challenge things, which is kind of cool to see it have a home here. I once again played against this deck and was laughing at them until I lost.
What a story,
Mark.
Laughing at them until I lost.
Yeah, because they were just making me discard a bunch of stuff. They played Davriel, and I was like, haha, that's kind of funny. And then Tiny Bones and Waste Not came out, and I was like, oh no. And then, of course, Nikki B shows up and ruins the party.
Oh, this deck is like, it's just so mean when people play discard decks.
This deck is very rude. It's just rude.
It's just so rude.
But if you are this person who wants to be a rude dude, think about Tiny Bones and this deck because I can't stop with Tiny Bones. Tiny Bones is my favorite name of a Magic card. Don't let me forget it for this year's Crimbies.
Oh, it's so good.
Tiny Bones. Must be related to Gutter Bones because I just really love Gutter Bones too.
Yeah. They're from the same family, obviously. Really the Mr. Bones family.
Yeah, the Boneses, if you will.
Tiny Bones is like, oh, no, please don't call me Mr. Bones. That's my dad, Gutter. Gutter Bones.
A whole Bones family. Please, Wizards, give us what we want, the Bones family.
The Bones family.
And then we can make a movie that's like the Addams family, except it's all of the Boneses. Oh, I'm into it.
Love it. Love it. Also, I feel like Gutter Bones, maybe is like the older brother of Tiny Bones and not the dad.
Yeah, I think so.
Gutter Bones kind of has Gutter Bones has like an older brother vibe.
Yeah, I was getting like black sheep, like cousin vibes or older brother vibes because they're like doing their own thing, like buttering toast. And the family's like,
buttering toast.
We don't have toast in the Bones family. And Gutter Bones is like,
no,
but I like toast.
I have toast. I have toast.
The last deck that I put on this list is kind of trying to make Tron happen in Historic, which is Historic Tron. This deck I kind of I like because of the fact that it's all colorless, which is really fun, and that means you get to play lots of big baddies like Ugin the Spirit Dragon, or excuse me, Eugene the Ineffable.
Thank you.
Lamog the Ceaseless Hunger is in this list, which is pretty sick.
Like, all I truly want is a deck. Like, I want there to be a deck that's playing 4 copies of Ulamog in the main.
Well,
and that's like its game plan. So I need to make that happen in the world.
I mean, this one has just 1, but you could change it, Megan. Like, you can just mess with these numbers a little bit and give yourself 4 Lamog.
Like, I want a 4 Lamog.
Great.
Not an Unomog.
Unomog, a 4 Lamog.
Yes, exactly.
I'm a fan of this. It's basically you're ramping. You're playing Palladium Mirror, which gives you, colorless mana, Solemn Simulacrum, which welcome to the table once again here in Historic.
Mind Stone, obviously.
Yeah. Mystic
I like
Forge.
That this version is playing Mystic Forge, which is 4 mana. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Great.
This is really cool, and it's like, pretty far away from being anything resembling Tron. But you know what? We're gonna call it Tron because it plays big, huge creatures at its top end, and it's colorless. Yeah. So I'll give it to them. You know what?
It's a fun time.
It's a fun time.
Which is what we could say about all of Historic, everybody. That's, if you have one takeaway, it's a fun time.
Like, seriously, we're sitting here like, can you believe all of these decks we talked about? And honestly, I think we did a pretty good job, but you could find like maybe 50 more other different archetypes.
Easily. Yes.
If you went out there looking.
So many more decks.
Which I think is just so cool and not true of many Magic formats happening out there right now. So like Megan said, you can use this to climb the ladder. It's legit. It's the same as everything else. Mm-hmm. There's a Historic Open coming up in 2 weeks. There's the F&M at Home event coming up this weekend. So you can try everything out before you buy. And it's just like a super fun, diverse format. Like we're here for it. Well, human beings, that's this episode of Good Luck High Five. Thank you times a million for hanging out with us once again and talking some Historic. I had a blast going through these decks. If there's one that's your pet deck that we didn't mention, please let us know. You can tweet at us at GLHF Magic on Twitter. We would love to hear about it. We're keeping a little collection. And these decks are all available in the show notes or under the video, so you can try them out.
Hopefully you get out there this Friday and find something in Historic that really rocks your boat in a good way. Yeah. Like on a fun amusement park boat rides, like that kind of situation.
Yes.
And then you can take it on into the Historic Arena Open in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah. We've got more events than we can shake a stick at here in Magic. Like, honestly, there's so much going on.
We only have so much stick shaking ability. Which is easy to turn around.
So true. Say that 5 times fast.
Stick shaking ability.
But like we said, the Players Tour Finals coming up this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Check it out. We'll be working there, watching the magics happen. Hopefully something will beat Team Erect.
We can cross our fingers.
We can hope. It's going to be a really well-produced event, though, so it should be really fun to watch regardless.
Thank you so much to everyone who is a patron of the show for supporting us, for keeping us on the airwaves, coming out of your cats' mouths. Thank you as well to our wonderful sponsors, Card Kingdom. You're all great.
You're all so
You're all
great.
A plus.
A+. Thanks to everybody who interacts with us on all our social medias. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, we've got a website, we've got a YouTube.
We
Check
have
them
a
all
Discord
out.
that you can be in if you're a patron.
Yeah, we've got everything. And I just love getting messages from people. It's so wonderful, no matter what they're about. So thank you, everybody who interacts with us. That means a lot to us, too.
Yeah.
So have a good week. We'll see you at the weekend. And, you know, if you want some magic news, we had a huge episode of The Upkeep this week.
Yes.
You should
So
check
much
out.
news.
There was so much
So
news.
much news. And until then, remember, you know, some of us get to be self-actualized and some of us die trying.
Good grief.